19 minutes past 8 on Friday's OTB AM with myself and Johnny Ward. Delighted to say Alan Quinlan joins us on the line now. Morning, Quinny, how are things?
Morning, lads. Good, thanks, Shane. All good.
What are your World Cup memories? Your earliest World Cup memories, Quinny, when you thought you might play a proper sport?
Jesus.
Well, you say a proper sport. I loved soccer growing up.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a World Cup memory. It was. I'll give you a World Cup one in a minute. But the first big soccer memory was, and I've said this before, and off the ball was Ray Houghton's goal at Euro '88.
Yes.
Wow.
And then obviously Italia '90, his goal there as well. I nearly got there. I was trying to scramble a few quid together to get to America. There was a possibility that a neighbour was going to bring me, but never happened. But
You could set up a GoFundMe page now, you know.
Could have, yeah. But back then it was much harder. Now there was no such thing as GoFundMe. It was the neighbours, maybe your friends or relations you could rely on if you wanted to go anywhere. But look, I that Ray Houghton goal against Italy in Italia '90, those are the ones, the two, you know, the really special memories, those ones. And I remember them well and being glued to it. The John Aldridge incident with Jack Charlton when Mexico beat them 2-0 and he couldn't get on the field. Unbelievable, yeah. I was so into it back then.
Class moments.
You took the wrong path in life, but anyway, here we are.
I wasn't good enough for the soccer, Johnny.
Quinny turned out all right, let me tell you.
And most of the Tipperary hurling people said, well, the fellas who weren't good enough for the hurling started playing rugby. So
Here we are.
anyhow.
Yeah. We should touch, we will talk about the URC, of course, this weekend. But, Quinny, the Ronan O'Gara suspension has taken a lot of headlines this week. His fourth suspension, by the way, since November of 2021. So 10 weeks, a bit of a fine as well thrown in there, 15,000. It's disappointing for Ronan. We obviously don't know what was said on the sidelines. It's different in France, I guess, where the head coaches can be down pitch side as opposed to up in the nosebleeds. So it's disappointing for Ronan.
It is, and I think I kind of giggled at the last one because, but not this one. I think, look, it's obviously very disappointing for him, and I know him so well. He's very passionate. He's fiery. He really cares about his team, and he's engrossed in that. And obviously, he's got to be more careful. I think this wasn't a sideline incident, or talking to referees after a game or during. This was feedback he sent back to the head of the referees in France, and did it through the proper channels, but probably didn't say it in a way that obviously said it in a way that got himself into trouble. So, and it's probably on the back of the other incidents where he's had a few clashes and he's spoken about referees, and so it's not good for him. It's obviously very disappointing. It's pretty severe punishment as regards the length of time that he'll be not be able to be on the sideline or involved in the match day preparations, and the fine as well. So particularly in the week that he's been linked with a possible job with England, but I think he's always going to be linked with any big jobs that come up now in the game. But that's disappointing, and it'll be, obviously he can't say a lot about it himself, but I did speak to him about it, and he's kind of obviously frustrated. But I think knowing that he needs to just handle things a little bit differently, and I think with Rassi's videos and what's happened there, I think everybody is very mindful of it, and maybe that didn't help the situation with the French referees either. But we've got to respect the referees. We don't always agree with their decisions, and he has to be just more careful in how he sends that feedback back if he's frustrated. It's emanated from incidents in the Toulouse game that they played, that they lost 26-17. So, yeah, not great news for him, but he's got to either decide now to appeal or get on with it. And how will it affect his team? Who knows? I think he's still able to train them every week. but it's just being close and personal with him on match day is he's not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, the statement said he was suspended for, quote, harming the best interests of rugby. Didn't specify when this incident happened, but the only match Ronan O'Gara has coached since the previous ban apparently was against Brive on November 5th. So the sanction will last until January 30th. This 10 weeks. He can, as you said, Quinny, appeal it. Leaves him out of the Heineken Champions Cup pool games. But I mean, as you said, the England links are there. The lads were talking on the show during the week, trying to imagine a world where Ireland are playing England in a Six Nations match. Ronan O'Gara is the head coach of England. He's up there wearing the rose. Last minute drop goal or penalty for England to win it, and he's kissing the badge.
I can't.
Can you imagine it, Quinny?
I can't see it.
It's hard to picture it, but if I was in his shoes, you probably say, "No, I'd never do that. I'd never do that. I'd never do that," until there's actually a piece of paper on the table or there's a concrete offer and people are starting to talk about it, and then you kind of go, unless it's one where you're kind of Roy Keane-esque and you go, well, you just don't ever do that. Manchester United players don't ever go to Man City or Liverpool, or the way he's so determined. If he says it, he would stick to it. Initially I was like, God, I wonder will that happen. But then we've got, Andy Farrell's an English guy coaching Ireland, and Mike Catt as well. So should the individual kind of restrict his opportunity or the possibility of having success? Conor O'Shea was with England. It's strange. I met Conor O'Shea a number of times when he was involved with England, working with them over the years, involved with their 20s last year. And it's strange when you meet them, you're kind of gone. You have to kind of give yourself a little nudge. Yeah, you have to give yourself a little nudge that they're actually involved with England because of the history and the rivalry. But then the other side of it thinks, if I was in that situation, I was, say, a forwards coach or something like that in coaching, and I got offered the English job. Yeah, there's a lot to think about, but from a career prospect point of view, it's the top of the game, and he said it himself. They're, no matter what way they do in between, at nearly every World Cup, they're a chance of possibly winning it. So it would be very strange, but I wouldn't rule it completely out, and he hasn't really gone into any detail with me in it for any listeners or anyone thinking that there's a scoop on this. But I know from him that he would certainly look at the offer and look at the situation if one did materialise.
Could they make him an offer he can't refuse?
Well, that's the thing for me, Johnny. I was just thinking, they write a number down on a piece of paper. Well, then a lot of patriots and passionate Irish people's, their heads could be swayed very quickly and say, look, I'll weather the storm here and the bit of grief I'm going to get.
Take the dirty shilling, like.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of Irish went over to England back in the day to feed their families and make a living and stuff, and took the English pound. But look, I don't know. Obviously, if you had, it's different if you had a couple of offers on the table and the other offers were different and not the English job. But if the English job comes on the table as a standalone offer, he has to consider it and he has to look at it. And I'm not saying I'd be over the moon to see Rog coach in England, but I'd be happy for him as personally, whatever decision he makes. And maybe it would be strange, but I think I wouldn't knock him for considering it and looking at the offer, because you've got to it's a short kind of career and it can change very quickly, and it's not like football management where the money is off the charts and you get a 2 or 3 year contract in football and soccer, English Premiership soccer, and as a manager, as a player, and you make lots and lots and lots sizable money that can change your whole life. Even though the salaries would be decent for international coaches, it's not life changing, but it still would be significant. And I think they're the one union that could put an offer on the table that could sway you and make you look at it.
I think the talk is that he's on this 3-man shortlist with Scott Robertson and Steve Borthwick. So remains to be seen whether
I would imagine, Shane, they'd try and put the two of them together,
right.
Scott Robertson and or even the three of them together, because you look at Robinson being head coach, Rog assistant, or backs, skills, defence, whatever.
But can you take? Is it tough for Rog then to take, like? And he kind of hinted at this last week almost, that once you've been a head coach, as he is with La Rochelle, it's quite difficult to then go and take an ego hit and be the number 2 or an assistant coach or whatever.
Yeah, you look at what Stuart Lancaster did and being an England head coach, and it didn't work out, and he lost his job after the World Cup in 2015, was kind of thrown under the bus really, and for him to come back into the game, it was a perfect scenario to be an assistant coach and get his kind of mojo back for coaching. And obviously he's done a fantastic job with Leinster over the years, and now he's going to Racing as a head coach. So yeah, I think to go back, and make the decision to go back is dependent, particularly when you take that top job and you're in control. But I'll tell you, there's a hell of a lot of work in being the top the head coach. There's so much more to it than the assistant, even though there's still, you've got a lot of work, but you've got to drive the whole organisation and make a lot more decisions. So when you get a taste of it, obviously he says he loves it and he likes being in control and he likes, controlling the destiny of his own team. So going back as an assistant, who knows? It might. But I would imagine they would, if they were trying to get a package here, the 3 guys that are being linked, the 3 of them together would be a brilliant package for England.
Just from the outside looking in, what he's done at La Rochelle, to go over to a country where they speak a foreign language, obviously, and to get them to the level that he has, like how seismic is that in world rugby?
It's big. It's very big, Johnny, and I think he obviously going to Racing when he retired for a couple of years helps the whole situation, because France is very. They sometimes they don't see beyond France, and if you can crack it in France, and earn the respect of the players and the other clubs and the other coaches, and I think it makes life a little bit easier, that whole perception and more accepting. There's lots of good coaches over the years who've gone to clubs in France and struggled and it hasn't worked out long term because the culture is different, and it's to kind of get under that level of the individual and get that connection with them can be challenging sometimes. And they always have incredible talent. You just look at the French national team now. I think one of the big issues for a long time was coaching structures and fitness levels for the national players. Obviously, incredible individual talent, but what Galtier has done, Sean Edwards, even as they've got him incredibly fit, they've got him really well coached, and they've won the players over, and the players love that, and they were in the last 10 years where we haven't seen success previous to obviously winning a Grand Slam in the last Six Nations. There was, they hadn't won in 10, 12 years a Grand Slam or a championship, and France were poor a lot. And it's similar with the clubs. You could play, I think with the exception probably of Toulouse, Clermont and Racing for a number of years there where they were challenging in Europe. There's probably 3 or 4 clubs that you think they have it pretty much right as regards, the attitude, players buying into, Europe and the top 14 and being really consistent and good. For him to go there and kind of do it with La Rochelle, where they'd never won a major trophy, to win the European Cup, to be in the final the previous year when John O'Gibbs was there, obviously as well, and come close in the league to they lost both finals to Toulouse the previous year. To do that is very impressive, and I know from talking to Bernard Jackman and Mike Prendergast, when you kind of break it in France. But it helps with Ronan O'Gara, doesn't it? Because he's got that respect from playing, and that. But it still doesn't guarantee you success. And I think the players respect him and like him, and he's got himself in a little spot of bother now. But I think the club and the fans love what he did last year, and we saw those scenes. So it is very impressive. But he started, Johnny, on that journey of doing it with Racing first and trying to learn and get into that culture and understand it. Obviously, learning the language pretty quickly, and then going to New Zealand and coming back again. So yeah, he's earned that respect, I suppose, and that makes a huge difference.
He's building his CV to be the Ireland manager, and England is just that's final step on the ladder, like to be the Ireland manager.
That's the way I like to.
Well, I think with Andy Farrell, obviously,
we have an English coach. Yeah, you have to remember
signing the new contract. It's there's no, that position is, who knows what Andy Farrell will do in 2025. He could be there for another number of years. He's done an incredible job. The problem is now, does Ronan go in as an assistant somewhere along the line? Would he get involved with Ireland? Does he take one of the provinces? Well, who knows? But
Rory O'Connor made the point here. I think it was Rory during the week in the Irish Independent, talking about the fact that the IRFU should be pulling out all the stops to ensure that O'Gara is signed up somewhere.
But what do they do? What do they do? Just
get rid of someone,
bring him back and
create a job for him.
Create a job. I don't know. I think and there was a mention of David Nusafora's job and stuff like that. He wants to coach. He wants to be involved in that kind of adrenaline rush every weekend. I think.
What would be his biggest, where would Munster and Ireland lie in his aspirations in?
I'd say right up there, Johnny. I think ultimately, but he's under no illusions. I think, Munster, he's been linked with Munster, and, even when Johan van Gran was leaving this time last year, when it was announced in December last year, he was immediately linked with the job. Was in his first season as head coach with La Rochelle. But I think, for any of us, that kind of Munster blood will always be there. But from a selfish point of view, I think Munster are in transition, and he was here, started a project with La Rochelle, so the project or the timing of it just wasn't right for him, particularly when he had been in La Rochelle as an assistant for the previous 2 seasons, and now he was getting an opportunity. He didn't want to give that up, so he was proven right, because La Rochelle's development or position was in a much stronger place than where Munster are, and the change that's happening there now. So they obviously had strength, depth, quality right across the board, and experience, and older players who were able to challenge for Europe. So I think his aspirations would be, I think someday, yes, of course, I would see him. I would love to see him coach in Munster and be the head man in Munster.
Just very, very briefly, Quinny, just looking ahead to the URC this weekend, we've Ulster Zebra tonight at 7:35, Leinster versus Glasgow tomorrow at 3:15, and then tomorrow night is, I guess, the big one from an Irish interest, the Interpro between Munster and Connacht at 7:35. Anything you're particularly looking forward to seeing this weekend?
Well, we've given 20 minutes talking about Rog, so Rog will be fine, and he probably won't ever take the English job. So the listeners needn't worry about that. I think obviously the biggest game is the Munster Connacht game, and that's the one that stands out. It's great to see Ulster play Zebra tonight, and with Ian Henderson coming back, that's an important one for me. I think he's been very, very unfortunate with injury in recent times, and I think he's very, very important to Ireland going forward. So hopefully he can, get some game time and get back for Ulster, who've done remarkably well. I think, they've only lost one game. That was to Leinster, and they're second in the league. So, you think they're going to win tonight. Zebra haven't won any game in the league so far. Leinster, Glasgow tomorrow, it's a bit of an unknown what kind of teams will be picked there. But the Munster Connacht one is, I think both sides are, and Connacht people would say Munster 14th in the table, Connacht are 12th. Both Munster find themselves in a fight now to be not really talking about playoffs, but qualifying for Europe. I think is nearly more important, even though one will go hand in hand with the other. But they're obviously they've won 2 games, lost 5. Connacht are 1 point ahead of them in the league, But a win for either side could push them up to, 6th or 7th in the league, depending on results. And given what happened a number of weeks ago in round 4, where Connacht beat Munster 20 points to 11 in the sports ground, again, there was both sides were under similar pressure. They hadn't won a game at that stage. They'd lost their, the poor results in those first 3 games. This one is a real kind of potential humdinger, if you like, as regards there's been a bit of a bite in this game, and obviously it's Munster being at home, and given the position they're in, the kind of question is, can they build off that South Africa performance that they had in Páirc Uí Chaoimh a couple of weeks ago and get themselves a result?
Yeah, momentum is a real thing. It remains to be seen if they can keep that going. But Munster, Connacht tomorrow evening, 7:35, as Quinny said. Leinster, Glasgow, 3:15 tomorrow, and then Ulster Zebra is the game tonight at 7:35. Quinny, great stuff as always. Thanks a million.
Cheers, lads. Thanks.
Alan Quinlan there with us on a Friday.